April 26th, 2019 will forever be known as the day that our culture was blessed with the most ambitious, the most artistic, most far-reaching, and consequential piece of art that our culture has ever, and possibly will ever in our lifetimes, see. Because, on April 26th, 2019, the world will be exposed to the work of magnificent art that is, of course, Cokie the Clown's Youre Welcome. I'm recording this intro in the afternoon of April 25th, 2019. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if the album's any good. All I do know is Cokie the Clown is the alter ego of NOFX's bassist and frontman, Fat Mike. Mike first properly introduced us to a significant other ego on Cokie the Clown. After that, NOFX did another EP that kind of had a similar vibe, but for the most part, Cokie disappeared until now. Up to this point, I think it's safe to say that Cokie the Clown's work has been fairly well received by NOFX fans, and it's probably also fair to say that the reason that it's been well received is because instrumentally and vibally, it really calls back to the kind of music that NOFX was writing in the mid to late 90s. Though the Cokie the Clown project also had a more controversial, divisive side, that being Fat Mike leaning into more emotional and personal themes like his childhood. Since that first EP, Fat Mike brought a lot of that energy to a few interviews that he gave, and he brought some of it to NOFX's follow-up full-length LP first-stitch effort. Straight up, I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but going off of the two singles that they've given us from this record so far, I think that it's definitely going to lean into the more controversial side of Cokie's. So when all of my friends are going to the theater to see what happens to that big purple guy, I'll be kicking back and checking out Cokie the Clown's Youre Welcome.
It may sound trite, but punk rock saved my life.
Well, shit. It's hard to know where to start with this. So let's just start at the start. Cokie the Clown's Youre Welcome opens with Bathtub. I definitely get the impression that each of the songs on this record is a certain real event that happened in Fat Mike's life, but probably, of course, fictionalized to some extent. And the opening song more or less is about Fat Mike waking up incredibly hungover, rolling over, realizing that his significant other, I don't know if it's about Soma or his ex-wife or a girlfriend, but Fat Mike rolling over and realizing that his significant other isn't there, and then looking to the bathroom and seeing the bathtub and realizing that she's unconscious in there, that she's tried to kill herself, and what it felt like for Mike to be in a situation like that. And I guess the gist is she was almost gone, but he managed to find her in the nick of time. The song ends with, if he was just 5 minutes later. To address the elephant in the room with the thematics right now, this album is very raw and emotional. This is a 10-track album of slow songs by Fat Mike featuring piano and strings, and Mike opening up like he's in therapy. And this song has very effective, very well done instrumentation for what it is. I'm generally not a fan of slow songs, I tend to kind of despise them, but as we'll get into more with the songs as we go here, they're particularly well done. But after hearing the theme, the mood of the song, you'll probably be able to tell if the rest of this album is the right album for you. If you're one of the guys in the NOFX comment section who's been like, just walk it off, have a beer, get over it. Or even if you're just someone looking for fun or energetic punk music, this definitely is not going to be the record for you. If you're going to try this record, I implore you to try it with an open mind. Bathtub breaks right off into Fair Leather Friends, a song which, as far as I can tell, is a song about Mike being a sub and how that opened him up into relationships. These people he was with became overbearing, cold, unconsiderate, uncaring in their everyday relationship outside of that. And it's definitely a weird effect to hear Fat Mike singing about sex, singing about BDSM, in such a serious, vulnerable way. After that is The Queen is Dead, a sort of in memoriam, and I guess I'll bring up now. And I really think that this album has some exemplary lyric work, probably some of Mike's best. He's always been pretty good at making lyrics that sound good, part of why he makes such great poppy skate punk. But these lyrics have such great flow and sound so great, but are packed with this sort of raw emotion. And normally when he busts out the emotion guns, it's for a political message, but this album only has really one political thing to say, and it's just a little jab at Switzerland. And hearing him obviously putting a lot of hard work into applying that talent in a much more serious way is really different. If nothing else, it's incredibly interesting. Swing and a Miss is a story about someone Fat Mike knew hanging himself twice. The first time he failed, but Mike didn't tell anybody, didn't reach out to anyone, didn't really know what to do, and then the second time he succeeded, if you want to call it succeeding. And the definite guilt from Mike that bleeds through for having known that he tried it and might try it again and not really doing enough about it. Down with the Ship, to generalize it as much as I can, is a song about Mike feeling Like he's a coward or the quitter that can't commit with his mistakes. He's the captain to not go down with the ship and to bail out. Negative Real is about his neuroticism, his feeling of just being fundamentally fucked up and different from anyone else, and specifically how that ties into his BDSM, his inability to feel normal pleasure, and the sort of extreme pleasure that he feels, the sort of extreme other emotions that he feels in place of the more normal emotions that other people feel. That Time I Killed My Mom is a song about when Mike visited his mother who was slowly dying, and she asked him to speed it up and help her die, and he did. Even though he tried, she still died in a rather unpleasant way, but it was the best that he could do for her, after everything that she'd done for him. I'm not sure who the vocalist is in this. I'm guessing that it might be Soma, or it might be his daughter. Probably his daughter, given that she's kind of singing from the perspective of her, but you never know. Fuck You All is a punk song hiding amongst all the slow songs, but it's still not an upbeat, fun punk song. It's kind of a decompression of a lot of rage and hostility. I guess jadedness is probably the best word for it. Prearranged Marriage is a song about struggling to figure out how to make love work between two very unorthodox, atypical people. And of course, Punk Rock Saved My Life. Brushed on that in my single review, it's a fucking great punk song. It has great energy, it's very raw, it's to the point, and it's touching. And probably above all and most charming is it's incredibly relatable to people who've been in very low points in their life when punk rock helped them out of it. I had a hard time fitting detail about how I feel about each specific song, so I'll try to generalize it into how I feel about the entire album.
Just a quick casual video for you all. Just a quick casual video for you all.
Like I said, this album is essentially a therapy session from Fat Mike. It's incredibly well done. The instrumentals, the strings particularly. I usually hate strings, but the strings on this album, the piano, the guitar, everything, it's very well done and very well thought out, very nuanced, slow music. He doesn't usually lapse into lazy, repetitive structures that a lot of pop slow music does. He likes to add the little flourishes and nuance that a lot of more, orchestraic slow music has. I guess what I'm trying to say is there's definite effort in the instrumental department. If you have at least any inkling of caring for any type of slow music, it should appeal to you, at least in an artistic merit. Thematically, your mileage on this album will vary greatly. Now, since this is the internet, I should not and will not get into every way that this album resonated with me, but a lot of the themes and stories really hit home. And knowing the kind of people who are drawn to punk rock, at least one or two of these songs have a very good chance of resonating with you. Overall, it's a very disarming album. It's artistic, yet it still says it as it is, and it really reaches in, hits an emotional core, and leaves you struggling to know what to say, and really unable to do anything but let yourself be drug along, feeling the emotions as they play out. This album could feel manipulative, but I think only because it's very rare, at least to me, that an album can actually earnestly be this effective at, grabbing onto your core and not letting go. So all in all, to me, this album was incredibly special and kind of amazing. This isn't so much an album that you like or don't like, it's more of an album that you identify with or don't identify with. It's latched onto me like not many other albums have, and since those albums haven't let go, I don't think this one will either. Unfortunately, I've only listened to it 4 times. I intended to listen to it more, but there's life getting in the way. I wanted to get this review out sooner. It's already later than I wanted to get it out at. So at this moment in time, I'm comfortable with giving this album a B+, which could easily slide up to an A-. It might slide down to a B or slide up to an A, but those are less likely, so I guess consider this split between B+ and A-. I feel like I could say that I didn't realize that Mike was capable of this, but I think I always knew that he was. I just never thought that he would actually tap into this. Something about being the artistic personality that I'm sure any artistic people in the audience will know is that when things come and inspire you, you have to follow them. And especially if you've been in a rut, been in a place where you have just had no inspiration, when that comes, you have to follow it and see where it takes you. And I think that Mike found this little thread of a thing to follow with Cokie the Clown, and through this album he's followed it out really to the final, most complete thing that it can be. And to finish this off, I think it's great that he was willing to put this out into the world for other people to listen to. Thank you for taking a risk, Mike.